Israelite Nation Worldwide Ministries, where history meets prophecy. I'm Elder Michael, and we have Elder Castrilli. Yes. And we are waiting for Officer Charmaine to complete her signing in. So how are you doing, Officer Castrilli? It's good to see you.
Oh my gosh, great to see you too, Elder Michael. You guys are phenomenal. I enjoy the series tremendously, and to be here today, excitement. Oh my gosh, this subject, all your subjects, phenomenal.
Yes. Well, like I was saying yesterday, we're so happy to have you because I know that you have a great deal of knowledge and insight with regards to music. And today's topic, to our listeners, is the power of music. And like I said, we are waiting for. Here, there she is right now, the princess, Officer Charmaine. Introduce yourself.
Well, yes, absolutely. I am Officer Charmaine, and actually, I'm so excited about today. I'm sure you gave them the rundown, Elder Michael. We have
not everything. I kept.
We have the legendary Elder Castrilli.
Oh,
the legend.
You're something else.
No, it's such an amazing honor to have you on with us today, because we have spoken about this for a little while, but I just remember your lessons back in the days when it comes to music and how it relates to us and our Father, the God of Abraham, the God of Isaac, and the God of Jacob. But before we begin, and like I said, I'm just so chuffed today. But before we begin, I have to welcome our viewers today. Thank you so much for joining us. I know we have Hilaire, we have Karen, we have Sophie, we have, our usual listeners. I hope, you can share this with your friends and your family to make sure that they all join us today. And also remember that this is an interactive session. So please do not forget to put your comments in the chat and any questions that you may have. We're going to have so much fun today because, like I said, we had the legend with us, Elder Castrilli.
So we love questions, right? We love questions.
Absolutely do. Look, he's got all these instruments there as well.
I have my friends. I have my friends. Yeah. Look.
Excellent.
Yeah, gotta.
Excellent. So we have some side. Welcome, Thomas. Welcome. Thank you for joining us.
Yes.
And Rachel, thank you. Yes.
This is great.
And we have Denise. Yes, and Brian. Okay, thank you guys. Well, let's begin. Okay, we have some slides to start with. And once again, music is our foundation. And you know what? Guys out there in the world, out there in YouTube world, you're going to hear a lot from Elder Castrilli because this guy is just phenomenal when it comes to this. So if Elder and Mike, if you don't hear much from Elder Mike and us and I,
you guys are something else. You guys are what?
So Elder Castrilli, over to you.
Oh my goodness. Oh my, music, my brother, my sister, music. What can you say? I mean, just to go off, what can you say about music that doesn't affect every single soul that walks this earth some way, somehow? I mean, music, what it means to us. I mean, you turn on the radio, you turn on the TV, you listen to the creation. Music is just, it is not enough to describe it. It's so personal. You can't say to a person, say, hey, you don't, what do you mean you like that song? Oh, that's terrible. To them, they love the song. They like the song. They love the tune. But what is so fantastic with who we are, oh my gosh, how are we going to do this without getting emotional? I don't know. I don't know. I don't know. I want to
We're
grab
gonna
my
try.
Bible. I want to grab my Bible. You have Genesis 1 and 2 there. I just want to open right to the beginning and let's go. And like you said, Officer Charmaine and Elder Michael, you know, let's all jump in, questions, comments, and this is what it's all about. And we go to Genesis 1, right at the start, verse 26. And we know this is the creation, the period of our God creating all things. And then where he takes that time, he says, okay, it's the seventh day now. It's time for me to take a break and to look at and appreciate the creation. And it is phenomenal. As we live in this terrible world, the creation is beautiful in this world till this day. And from verse 26, it says right at the beginning with the first three words, and God said, let us make man in our image, after our likeness. Let us. Thank you, Elder Shadrach, for the revelation of the Christ, because when you read in Hebrews 1 and 2, you know, you read that what it states that the Christ was there when the worlds were made.
Mm-hmm.
So when you're reading here and God said, let us make man in our image, after our likeness. Image, fingers, toes, ears, etc. Likeness.
Mm-hmm.
And also, again, as our elder stated, the first man was our God. Our God is the first man. It's clearly stating it here. Let us make man after in our image and after our likeness, and let them have dominion over the fish of the sea, and over the fowl of the air, and over the cattle, and over all the earth, and over every creeping thing that creepeth upon the earth.
Mm-hmm.
The stage is set. And this was the sixth day. Now we go into chapter 2. If we jump there,
Mm-hmm.
jump there to verse. Yeah, go ahead. Go ahead.
Before you go there, because it's funny because as I'm watching the slides, I know I just put them together, but I'm watching it and I'm looking at the title, which is Foundation, and you are speaking, but I don't think people really understand who you are, Australia. Elder Castrelli, for those of you who do not know, was our Elder Shadrach's first student. So, you know, so we're talking foundation here. You know, if it wasn't for you, Elder Castrelli, maybe we won't be where we are today, you know, because, you know, you played such a pivotal role in the forming and the building of this nation. And I'm not just saying this, you know, Elder says this himself. So it is very important to recognize, you know, the foundation that we're speaking about, but also the foundation of our nation today. You know, so thank you, Elder Castrelli. I'm sorry, I just had to.
No, but
to
you know,
that, you know,
Officer Charmaine, you saying that alone, and the foundation started with music with our elder and myself, because it was 1983.
Yeah,
go ahead. Go ahead.
Yeah, give us some history on that. Yeah, please go ahead.
No, but that's how we came together through music. And here we are, you know, the subject, I mean, I don't know where to start. The music is just something that is so much impact in our lives. You hear a melody, it connects you to the past. You hear a melody that captures your mood. You hear a melody that reminds you something way back in your first dance in high school with that, oh, I like her, you know, let me go ask her, you know, music, the emotions, the moods. And that's how we came together, how the Israelite Nation Worldwide Ministries, with Elder Shadrach and myself, in 1983, when we met, it was through music, because he was recording his tunes. And he needed someone, as he sang his songs and as he wrote his lyrics, Oh my gosh. As he did all this, and I was there with him. He called me and we got together, and he would sing, work, with me. I would have my piano there, and I would say, okay, look, what key are we in? What key are you comfortable in? I would call him at the time Shad, But the whole thing is that linking to what we're discussing today. An instrument can change its key and to suit one's voice. The voice is what it is, what you get. So, that at that time, Elder Shadrach and myself were doing music, and that's how everything started rolling in 1985, where he said, "Oh my gosh, Tony, I need you to do some work on my new album." And I said, "Hey, I don't know. I'm just not up to it. And finally, he said, "What's up with you?" He visited me, came to see me, and that's where it led that he taught me about our God, the greatest God that there is, the God of Abraham, the God of Isaac, and the God of Jacob. So that's a bit on that. But going back, let us make man in our image and our likeness. That's the general summary in chapter 1. But in chapter 2, just to jump to chapter 2, verse 6, it reads, "But there went up a mist from the earth and watered the whole face of the ground." As Elder Michael, we were discussing yesterday, where chapter 1 gives the, all the summary, but the breakdown goes in the following chapters, and other people don't get it. They're not supposed to get it. Right. Anyway, verse 7, here we go. Okay, here we go. "And the Lord God formed man out of the dust of the ground and breathed into his nostrils the breath of life. And the man became a living soul." Breathe into the man the breath of life. Where's the breath? Oh, let me, oh my gosh. This is too exciting, guys. I mean, we need to be hosed down, what the heck? He breathed into him the breath of life. He became a living soul. Where's the breath? The breath is here, right here. And from the diaphragm, you got the diaphragm, which separates the chest from the abdomen. I'm not a doctor like Dr. Blair. He would know all this stuff. He would break it down even more. But the breath, everybody would say, you're not singing from the diaphragm. You're singing from the throat. But if you sing from the diaphragm, you'll be able to sing all day and not lose your voice. But you're singing from the throat, and that's dangerous. You can develop nodes. You can develop these things that you have to have surgically repaired. But what's here is our ribs. Let us make man our image and our likeness. Here's the ribs where the breath is, where the lungs are. Guys, lady and gent, how many ribs do we have? We have 12 pair of ribs. 12 pair of ribs. And the first 7 are called the true ribs because they're joined in the middle by the sternum, this bone, which is like a breastplate, a shield shaped like a sword. 7 true ribs, the breath of life. And then you got 5 more ribs, which are referred to as the false ribs. They're not directly connected to the sternum, but the 7 and the 5 make 12. You know where we're going here. Where are we going here?
I love it.
but the 7 with the 5, the 3, the 8, 9, and 10 are joined. They're fused together to the 7th rib. directly joined to the 7th rib. And then you got 2 floaters, the 11th and 12th. And I think of Joseph, where he kind of floated whenever all the predicaments that led him to go into Egypt and led our forefathers to go into Egypt. The floating 11, 12 are not connected to the rib cage here. So we got this where our breath is, where our tones are. And if you go all over the world, wherever you may go, regardless if it's Western music, Eastern music, whatever music you want to call it, if you have a person to go la, they can only create 12 tones, different pitches. As Elder Michael, the ladder, different pitches,
right,
and different pitches, but they can only create 12. So if you go to the north, they go la, you go to the south, they go lo, or they go somewhere east or somewhere, they can only create 12 tones, just like the 12 ribs, where the breath of life is, brings us to music.
Wow. Wow.
This is amazing. I like that you have all of these components at the time of creation to reflect the wisdom of the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. No other person obviously has created man. They try all different kinds of AI and robotic activity, but what you're describing, Elder Kistreli, speaks to sound, solid wisdom with the purpose of the individual being created in mind, not only to express their God-given talent, but to show that the source, the very foundation, like Officer Charmaine said, is still going to be manifested in everything that they do. It's absolutely magnificent.
It's magnificent.
All praises to God of Abraham.
All praises to our God, the God of Abraham, the God of Isaac, and the God of Jacob. It's so true. It brings us with the 12, with the breath, with the 12 ribs, and it's amazing how they're broken down. You're going to say something else.
I do, and I just forgive me because I somebody just mentioned it as well. Both of you, Elder Kistreli and Elder Michael, were the first 2 students. You were the first Elder Kistreli, and then shortly after Elder Michael came. And I think that's also very important to mention as we're talking about foundation. We're talking about the ribs, everything that connects together, to our God. So I am really honored to have you both here. I'm in the presence of great men.
That's a whole chapter.
You
could speak for an hour on that. But what I like is the fact that here we are, 3 different personalities and the same key, playing with the same rhythm in harmony. Right? And if you want to take it physically, we don't look alike, but we work together.
And listen, guys.
I mean, Officer Charmaine is the most beautiful. Come on, let's call it what it is.
Anyways, but you know what?
Hands down.
Yes.
you know what? You cannot hear this kind of lesson, this kind of information from anywhere in the world.
Exactly.
First heard Elder Kistreli break this down. It was just so phenomenal. And we were talking about music, but look how far back we are going in order to establish exactly how powerful music is. So really, my goodness, the breath. This is so deep. Oh my gosh.
But what brings it as we're doing this, it brings us to the structure of music.
Yes.
Because the structure of music is also 12. As there are 12 ribs, as there are 7 true ribs, the alphabet of music is 7 notes. A, B, C, D, E, F, G. And as we like to say, Officer Charmaine, G is the first letter in God.
Amen.
And that's the alphabet of music. After G, we just go back to A and repeat it over again. There's no
Exactly.
H-I-J-K and so on. There isn't. But here, where we have the 7, as we have the 12 ribs with the 7 true, we have the 7 notes of music, A, B, C, D, E, F, G. We have the black keys, as we say. The best is the keyboard. The keyboard is the keyboard with the white and black keys. It's visual. And
Yes.
what's applied on the, you see visually on the keyboard is applied to all musical instruments. You just don't see it the way you see it on a keyboard.
Right.
As there was that song years ago, was Ebony and Ivory go together in perfect harmony. Ebony and
I would
Ivory.
even go a step further, Officer Kistrilli, and say
Yeah.
that it applies to everything that we do in life. You know, whether you're dealing with economics, there is a cycle, right? If you're business, there's a cycle. Whatever that you look at,
There's a
there
cycle.
is a cyclical process.
There's a cycle.
Yeah, and I think that it is about time that people remember that the purpose of music, as I understand it, is to glorify the God of Israel. If you're not singing his praises, and I know there are different ways that you can do that because you got to do what
We
you
know
know.
that. Absolutely.
Yeah. But
Absolutely.
yeah, it's important that people be aware of this when they're singing and playing. And the Bible is filled with lyrics. You know, one of the biggest books is the books of Psalms.
Songs.
You know,
Exactly.
it's so
Exactly.
funny. It's so funny, Elder Michael, because I thought you were going to say that those that do not that are trying to speak Yiddish or whatever, they can't get this because, as Elder Kastrini says, you know, we're talking about the God of Israel with a big G.
But you know what I like about what you said, and because Officer Castrelli had already made it clear that there's a balance. You have 7 and you have 5. So those that can't get the harmony and the rhythm, they can still chant if they want to. You know, I'm not saying that
Totally.
you're gonna do what you got, use what you got. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah,
They
yeah.
can't sing like we can sing, for example,
Like
but
this.
yeah, but you know what? If you put them in the back of a hip hop or a rap artist, and they're "Hojika," you know, whatever they're doing, it might balance. It might lend itself to that song. Nothing wrong with that. So there's room for everybody on this earth.
We can get into, that's the thing. What we're talking here is the foundation. We're talking here
Yes.
is the original, like, man, Elder Michael, when you say it's to praise our God, that's the bottom line to all of
That's
this.
it.
To
Yes.
praise our God, the God of
Yes.
Abraham, the God of Isaac, and the God of Jacob. For this was there from the beginning. Praise
Right.
him, our God. And imagine now, it's in our hands, the Israelite Nation Worldwide Ministries. We're teaching the truth where nobody else is doing it. Thank you, Elder Shadrach, and this family, the best family upon this earth. And you now we're doing the songs, we're doing our worship tunes. And it's what? It's back
Yes.
in the original hands. It's back to home base. And we look at the talent in our nation. Look at the spectrum of talent in this area of music. Oh my goodness. But let me continue with the keys for a second. I want to continue because this gets more and more, because this is just, whoo, the keys. 7, A, B, C, D, F, G, just like the 7 true ribs, but there's 5 more that are side by side with the white keys. They're called sharps and flats. They're like the brothers and sisters of the A, B, C, D, F, G. So when you get the 7 plus the 5, you got 12 notes in music. 12 notes in music. 12 notes, just like the ribs, the breath of life. And where's this bring us? Of course, we have how many tribes in the Israelite nation worldwide? Means how many tribes from Genesis to Revelations that the chosen people of the true living God? 12 tribes of Israel.
Yes.
12, the breath of life, music, 12, Israel, 12. Why did Jesus the Christ have 12 apostles, as it says in Matthew 10, each one representing a tribe of Israel. So when you put that all together, the breath of life, the structure of music is 12. You can go to any university around the world and you can teach this. This is the fundamentals of music. 12. And you know what's interesting? Back in the day, I know, Officer Charmaine, you're much younger than myself and Elder Michael. You know, you're what?
Speak for yourself.
We had vinyl records. We had vinyl records. We used to have single records. A hit on the single would be on the A side. You know, it was 7 inches, 7, and the LP was 12.
Wow.
What? So the little disc was 7 inches, and the LP, the album was 12. What's going on here?
Yeah.
7 and 12 again. And then when our forefathers, Elder Michael, I know you're going to go into some of this, and if I'm not mistaken,
yes,
12-bar blues.
Wow.
It's, well, what? Why not 10-bar blues? Why not 15-bar blues? Why? Why 12-bar blues, where our forefathers are in oppression? They're in, I can't even fathom what they were going through, and they were crying out through their song, crying out through this gift, and they were creating the blues. The blues. One of our colors, red, white, purple, and blue. Blue is supposed, it's supposed to be a sunny blue. Took a nosedive.
Yeah.
Wait, why? You're singing the blues. Are you blue today? Are you down? But blue was a protection. When we would see blue in our garments, it was like the laws, the statutes, and commandments reminding us. And suddenly it took like, you're singing the blues. So the foundation of all of this, 12-bar blues. 12 bars means there's, when you count the music, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 12 of those 4 counts. And then it just repeats the process all over again. And then it just repeats the process all over again. So if somebody's singing a blues song, they're singing and they're expressing their pain, their emotion, whatever. Or she just left me and we're broken, and and all this crying out, and my first love is gone, and all this. So they would sing their part. Maybe I can play a little bit of a feel of it to give a 12-bar count.
So just a minute, Officer Kestrelli. You're saying that the fourth note or the 4th bar, there's then it repeats.
12 bars. I'll show you.
There's 12.
I'll show you. So there's like 1, 2, 3, 4, 2, 2, 3, 4, 3, 2, 3, 4, 4, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 2, 3, 4, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. Then sax comes in. It repeats the whole pattern again. So that whole first part could be someone singing and expressing themselves. Now the sax is going to do the solo. Then they're going to do 12 more of those with the sax doing all kinds of stuff. And then coming back, repeating again with the singer, go, you, and whatever. And the next 12, and so on, and so on. If that makes sense.
Yeah. So 12, there's 12, but then every 4th, you can make a change.
You change chords. The chord, you notice, that's another thing. If I could go into it, we can spend just time on the blues, but the whole thing is there's 3 chords with and through 12 bars, 3 chords, and they're the most solid chords in music, lacking a better word, most pure, most.
Wow.
I don't want to go into it too deeply because, okay, I'll give you one more thing, and again, this is highly spiritual because this is highly. If I play this tone, if I play this one note, hold this note. You hear one note, but there's actually all these overtones that exist in it that ride above.
Wow.
That don't, again, how spiritual music is. And when you get like the chord that was played in the blues, that series of notes falls into that overtone. Anyway, I don't want to go too much into that.
Wow, that
It's
is
making sense. So, with the God of Israel, bottom line to all of this, from the breath, and then the structure of music, and then you have Israelites, 12 tribes, the covenant with the 12 tribes, 12, 12, 12. It's all to glorify our God.
Right.
Wow.
Music. Yes.
Wonderful, wonderful. Wow.
I don't know if any of that, Elder Michael's still asking me about the 4, that 4th chord there.
No, I'm interested in that because I see the 4 seasons of the year.
Okay.
You see, so just like the breath of life that he breathed in to the first man gave us the ability to sing and to glorify him. I'm connecting all the dots, you know, as you're speaking, and it's fascinating because the wisdom is amazing.
You know, going off, okay, with what you just said, Elder Michael, about the 4 seasons.
Yes.
In music, there's endless amount of chords, but just to go off with what you just stated, the foundation of all the chords is only 4 types of chords.
That's what I'm talking about.
4 types of chords.
Right.
They're called major, minor, diminished, augmented. Everything else is built on those 4.
That's mine. Yep.
Which brings us north, south, east, west, the 4 seasons, and etc.
The 4 corners.
The 4 corners.
There you go.
You know, man. Man.
Wow.
Yeah.
That is just something else. That is something else. You know, we don't have a lot of slides today, but we're going to go through, and I know that, Elder Christopher, you're going to put your take on each of these. But I would like to offer this one to Elder Michael, who loves to speak about the Negro spirituals.
Yes, thank you, Officer Charmaine. I love to speak about it because the Negro spirituals demonstrate so much, and as we go on, you know, we will, you know, share the wisdom that is found therein. So we have that. First of all, it reflected the biblical heritage of the American slaves. You know, they think that we were just folks that couldn't read and write, didn't understand anything, but we came not with baggage. I think I was saying yesterday or before, but we came with all of this knowledge in our hearts and the ability to harmonize, or the ability to create a melody that would express the harmony therein. And the harmony is not only amongst ourselves, it's the harmony with our Creator, the God of Abraham, the God of Isaac, and the God of Jacob. Yes. So basically, we're given a sample here of some of the musical notes or some of the Negro spirituals that we sang. For example, you got off the slave ship, and shortly thereafter, you're singing "Go Down Moses." Excuse me? Moses?
Yeah.
You know, and these are things that go way back to Egypt, when Egypt was the most powerful nation on the planet. And then you're talking about Pharaoh's drowning in the Red Sea. That in itself is highly spiritual, because how is it that the same water that gave life to our foreparents, in other words, allowed them to walk through and probably saluting them, saying, "Hear, O Israel, the Lord our God is one." This is water now that we're talking about, the spirit of water. Let's call it what it is. And it paved the way, or it parted the sea for us to walk through safely. And now that same water is grabbing Pharaoh by the throat and choking the life out of him. Yeah. How is that possible? You see, that again, It's rhetorical. You got to think about these things.
Yeah, yeah.
So they sang about that at the Red Sea. Then they sang about what Joshua did at the walls of Jericho. Wow. And you know, all of you that have probably studied this presentation in the scriptures, that he stopped the sun. But yet we are taught in our schools and colleges and university that the sun is that the earth moves around the sun. So what Joshua did contradicts what they teach in the college and university. Again, it's laying the foundation for a people with a heritage of truth. Then you have the situation with Ezekiel. Wow, I can't even get into that one, because the vision that he had with the wheel and the things that he saw an I can't say a man, but let's I don't know. He saw an individual with one head with four different displays. One man,
That was
one
visions of God. That was his visions
exactly.
of God. Right? So,
People called it a UFO, but that's
yes,
ridiculous.
aliens.
Yes.
Aliens, yeah.
But
Magnificent. Again, the wisdom therein and the harmony of it, because all of these different displays work together in one body. And that's what I like. And this is why I left the description to the that Daniel could be in that fire, for example. And the fire did not destroy him, right? But yet the people that were outside, the guards who were making sure he didn't leave, they were burnt to crisp. Because again, truth cannot destroy truth. Fire cannot destroy fire. But those that are of the lie, well, you know how it is. And finally, there's Jacob's ladder, which Elder Castrelli talked about earlier. That again is very significant. And I like to say that Jacob never went on the ladder, but he saw the angels descending and ascending. And at the top, of course, was the God of Israel that addressed the whole situation. These songs alone paint such a magnificently high spiritual picture that it will take a whole generation, I believe. Much. And these are the slaves. These are the American slaves getting off in Virginia of the slave ship. And they're bringing all of this knowledge. They did not have books. They sang it. That's
it. That's
yes.
it.
Yeah, I think, just looking at the two comparison, the foundation, and looking at how it applied to us right at the very beginning of our enslavement when we came to the Americas is such a powerful establishment, because we're talking about the God of Israel, we're talking about foundation, we're talking about when we came into the Americas, another start of our foundation in the Americas. And it started again with music, So when you mentioned one thing, Elder Michael, and again, it goes back to what Elder Castrelli was speaking about, the breath. And, we know that there are four elements in addition to the seasons, right? So there are four main elements, right? And most of the elements are based on water. And water is such a powerful element because, as you read, Elder Castrelli, in Genesis, it talks about the water. The water was there, right? And you think about it in science, you look at the human body, and it consists of 70% water. And the water is based on waves, and waves has a connection to music because the different waves determines the different types of octaves that you reach in music. And you look at a child, when a child is, one, as you said in your past lesson, a child it comes from water, right? Because the child is surrounded by the water in the room, and the child comes out, and a human body is 70% water. And you play music to a child, it doesn't matter where they are in the world, they start to move, right? Because of the waves in their body is just starting to move. And to me, that is so incredible because, when we read the Psalms, it talks about praising God with song and dance. So you've got the rhythm inside of you already. And you have so many cultures that says, don't move. Well, actually not so
Yeah.
many, but there's a few out there that says,
That's it.
don't, yeah, you can't move when you're dancing. You know, you got to be straight, or, you know, or basically you can't dance, you know, so you listen to music, but you can't dance because it's vulgar and it's this and it's that. But a child moves right from the get-go, right from the beginning. They will just move. They're starting a little move. And it's so incredible when you see that.
It is.
Yeah.
It is. It's interesting what you're saying because of the vibrations.
Yeah.
And it's like on the lowest note, just to go off that, where the waves and the way it moves through us, through the children, and through our lives, and 70% of our body is water, just like 70% of the earth is. Interesting that we're made from that same earth. The proportions are the same, but you know, that lowest tone, if I play it on this piano, can you sing that a little louder, Michael? I don't know. Pretty, yeah, not close, but
yeah.
but
Yeah.
you know what it takes to achieve that tone? 27.5 vibrations per second.
Wow.
That's the lowest tone there.
Yeah.
And on the standard piano, there's 88 keys. And
Just
it takes
1 minute.
27.5 vibrations per second.
Just 1 minute. Barbara Smith had a
Yes.
comment that was very interesting.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
He said our forefathers never sang anything about Egypt, and that is absolutely correct. They, except for Pharaoh's death, of course, and not only Egypt in the past, Egypt in the present, because they never sang about the cross. They never sang about Christmas. They never sang about Easter. They never sang about Saturday or Sunday worship. They never sang about a January New Year.
You know,
all of these things. Yeah.
What he's saying. Yes, you're absolutely correct. They never sang about enjoying Egypt. They never sang about missing Egypt. In addition to that, they never sang about Jesus. And
that's right.
This is about very important.
Yeah.
They never sang about Jesus.
Mark, Luke, John, they never sang about anything in the Old Testament.
Yeah.
Because they had already left the land.
Yes.
Before that time.
Yes,
right?
when they left, to your point,
it's so inside, something inside of you.
Yes.
They left at the time after the passing of King Solomon, and which was about 930 BCE, and there was no Jesus at that time. Obviously, we know that no apostles at that time, and Paul didn't exist. So they couldn't be good. Without Paul, they couldn't be good Christians.
Yes.
Not at all.
Exactly. So, I mean, those are really quite very, very interesting points. You're right.
Yes.
And you said earlier, you know, they never spoke about, you know, England or being in India or any of that because it didn't relate to us.
Exactly.
You know? Yes. Or Muhammad and Allah or it didn't relate to us. You know, none of these things related to us.
But even
about this,
to your point also, Officer Charmaine, I mean, like they were right there in Western Africa. They knew about Timbuktu. They knew about the Congo River, the Niger River, the Sahara Desert, but they never sang about those things. But yet they sang about the Red Sea. They sang about Jerusalem. They sang about the River Jordan.
By the rivers of Babylon.
Yes.
The rivers of Babylon, where we sat down.
And Canaan land as well.
Right.
About Canaan land. You know?
Right. So therein is our history, our culture, our entire Israelite heritage wrapped up in music, the power of music. Whereas if you're traveling somewhere from one country to another, you have to take, books or notepads, or today you have your computer. They took music. They took the song. They had that rhythm in their heart. They had the spirit prepared. And when the time, and that music, and we'll get into some of this, they reminded, in singing those sounds, they reminded the God of Israel of the covenant that he made with them, the promises that he made with them. And we're going to look at some of the after effects of the music, some of the results. Like they sang, things happened. and we look at some of the things that happened after the
Oh,
song.
saying, and one thing just came to my mind. You talk about singing, we talked
Yes,
about rhythm and how it moves the body, but
yes,
also how it affects the person watching. Because
yeah,
we have a situation whereby,
It's,
the young woman danced and a head
mhm,
was given in as a reward.
yes,
correct.
Serious,
yes,
you know.
Correct. And
yes,
on the positive and negative, the environment it
Yes,
creates, the
yes. Music
environment,
is
positive
very, very
and
powerful.
negative. Yes,
Absolutely.
totally.
Yep. To keep
That's
even.
that's the beauty with us. That's the beauty with the music being with us now.
Mhm.
From that day one, that is now we're praising the true and living God that nobody else does. Oh my gosh, you
Mm.
I
know,
think this.
it's
I
just
think here's a question for you, Elder Kistrili.
mhm.
Uh, Mo Gamer is asking: is there any credence to the 432? Is that hertz thing?
Yes.
And if so, how could one create music using proper frequencies? And also, what are the proper frequencies?
Oh,
That sounds like
Very
a
good
heavy.
that
question.
sounds like a scientific question.
That's a very, very good question. It really is.
I, do you know what the 432 hertz are? I'm not sure what that is.
No, that has to do with the voice, I
Okay.
believe. I believe.
Okay.
Is there any
Yeah.
credence to the 432? And I'm very simple. I'm trying to understand all this frequencies and all this stuff here. No,
Well, one thing I do know, which isn't a great deal when it comes to this, but I was listening to a documentary which was speaking about music because this is what I do. Um, and one of the things that they said, there is an establishment of different frequencies that everyone around the world use when it comes to playing music. So when they're tuning a or a guitar, it's all tuned at the same level. So music becomes more universal. I don't know if that means anything or has anything to do with anything, but this is what
all
I
I
heard.
is where I was going off earlier about the vibrations, which would
Yes.
relate to all this. There is an A that like for example in the orchestra, the orchestra would tune to the oboe, playing this tone. And the rest of the orchestra would tune to them, which relates again to the vibrations and frequencies. Yeah, but the voice again, it's specific to one person. It's interesting that when you're playing in a band, for example, and there's certain songs that, oh man, we can't play that song because our that key, because everybody learning it from the record or the recording. It was saying our singer cannot sing at that high or that low or whatever. All one has to do is change the key, change the level of it, the vibration, the frequencies, to go with the singer of the band, to suit
Yeah.
this. One cannot change their voice.
Right. But what one can do a lot sometimes depend on the environment in which that individual finds him or herself. And that environment sometimes allows the individual to go, in some cases, beyond the norm.
Oh
And
yes,
again, you see, you could hit. I've seen a little boy, he's only 15. He started out with very low notes, and then he went so high, within the
yes.
same
The,
within about a
the
minute.
range, the range.
The
Yeah,
range was
Mm.
phenomenal, and he was a Nigerian boy, and he did a phenomenal job, and I was so impressed with it
yeah.
because again, I know you have sometimes they could the powers that be could influence your environment to create certain lyrics that affect your music, that affect your harmony, that affect your rhythm. And even today, we see a lot of that in the popular music.
But
So I don't know if that has anything to do with what he was suggesting.
but the whole thing is that, as we know, is we can see that music how it relates to to the creation and goes to the actual structure of music, going to our people with the 12 tribes, all just flowing and connecting. You know, when you see all of this, we know that, of course, music, the other side uses it like left, right, and center. And when you read in the scriptures, that in Genesis 4 is where Cain was removed for what he did. Cain was removed from the garden, and it was actually one of his sons. His name was Jubal, who was the father of the harp and organ. So the knowledge was there.
Yeah.
Even though the foundation is it's Israel. It is the structure when you connect with, and when you have the understanding, as we are blessed to have the understanding, we connect the points. But we know that music is used all over the place by all nations.
I want to mention one thing, because you know, it goes back to what you were speaking about with regards to the breath. You know, the breath being inside of you, but the breath was given to us from the God of Israel, right? So the breath came in, and in John 1 it says, "In the beginning was the Word." So we go even further back to the God of Israel's voice and the vibrations which cause the earth to form, which is really quite interesting, because I heard another story years ago, and it was about this scholar. He basically said, I mean, if there is any credence, any at all, to the whole Big Bang Theory, I know, please don't stone me, please, but if there is any credence, a 0.00009%, he said that in the beginning, the voice or the noise that was heard, that scientists claimed was at the beginning, he said that this is the voice of God. You know, when he said, "Let there be light," you know, it was his voice that was heard, and that was the noise that scientists claimed that they heard. So I'm just saying, it's like really very interesting, right? Because we know that the voice of God is magnificent, and it is powerful, and it brings nations to their knees and make mountains bow. You know, it's like the voice of God is very powerful. So
it's interesting. It's interesting with it's such a good point what you made there, Officer Shamin, about the same voice that said, "Let there be light," is that same breath that went into Adam that became that living soul. He became that living soul, and he blew the breath of life. That same vibration, that same power, voice of many waters.
Yeah. Pansy wants to know if the range or frequency of music affects us spiritually.
You know, and one of the important things in music, because even again, what I love so much about when Elder Shadrach teaches and taught us from day one is that how important the lyrics are. How important the words are. Going again to what you were just saying, Officer Charmaine and Elder Michael, how important the words are. Going back to what you're saying, the Negro spirituals, and it's not so much the style of the music. You can have, the other. There's philosophies out there. They control. You can only listen to this. You shouldn't listen to this. You shouldn't do that. The beauty, even if you come to our nation. If you come to our nation and you take part in the worship, is the different styles we have. Our music, our songs have all different, genres, as they say. I can't even know if I can say that word right. I'm so used to just saying style. What style is he, or what style is she? But the whole thing is, the bottom line to it all is the words are praising the God of Abraham, the God of Isaac, and the God of Jacob, regardless of the style. So, the lyrics are super, super important, which is the word. And that's where it all came from.
Yes.
That kind of connects with Pansy Guido's question.
Yeah.
The lyrics, the words.
Right. I know that there's so much more that we could get into, but I like the idea that, we have to remember that music came from the Creator, just like the breath that we breathe. So we have to. What I like about this presentation is the fact that we are reminding individuals that we need to remember who created us and for what purpose. We need to get to that understanding. It is not just trying to feel good. And when we're dancing, it's another way of glorifying the God of Israel. You're making those moves because you're happy or you feel good with things or you're showing appreciation for what he has done. It's not all about us. It's all about those around us and the one that created us as well.
There's another question.
Let's see. Yes,
There.
it says, it is said that because we are all waves, that specific frequencies have the ability to both build and destroy. Can music without vocals be both detrimental and healing?
Well, there's thing about the music that goes with the lyrics. I think Elder Michael just mentioned about the happiness, about it's the moods.
Yeah.
The music without lyrics can create a certain mood, and in music there's these things called the modes, which when you do a certain scale, which is a scale is like this. Everybody knows that is the famous do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti, do, ti, la, sol, fa, mi, re, do. But if you start altering some of those tones, that is basically considered happy, upbeat tone to it. So, but if you start altering some tones, you start to go deeper into sad. You can start going into the point where it gets dark. And there's a spectrum of those modes. So yeah, they're called, which is moods. So the music can create moods. And if you're listening to a certain mood all the time, sure, it will bring you, you're basically going right into that area, being in darkness. And it's interesting, the darkest mode, when you study the modes, because again, there's 7 of them. What else is, here we go. It's called the Locrian mode. Loch Ness. Locrian. That's pretty dark. So if you're listening to stuff that's in that mode, that mood, it's not going to be very healthy in the sense of positiveness and being in that brighter area of life.
Another point also, Elder Castrilli, is the fact that we always have to come back to the beginning. We always have to go back to the foundation, because again, it is not something that just fell out of the sky, so to speak. But the God of Israel, as we said earlier, he gave us this privilege, this ability to create music, if you will. So what I'm getting at is, now when we open the window and we look outside and we see the sun, or we see the moon, or we see the trees, or the birds, we can go on, or the little children, then we could have the inspiration to create music. And in the process of that creation, we glorify him, because all of those things I just described could never have become a reality without his creation. This is what it's all about. So that would negate the ability to put you in a foul mood. Or if you are in a foul mood to begin with, the sun, look out and see the rain, or even the snow, if that's what you like. And cause, and then you could sing and create your music, glorifying the God of Israel. That negates the dark element. But if you're taking money because you signed a contract to do something that is not appropriate, well, then you got no choice but to do what.
No, I completely agree that music itself, the sound of music, does have the ability to create environments and moods and situations, for lack of a better term. I mean, you look at the film industry and they use it, they know the power of it. You can have a movie playing and it's just fine, but add the elements of sound and music, it creates a completely different atmosphere. You can actually carry the audience. You can make them anxious. You can make them sit on the edge of their seat. Alfred Hitchcock, he was excellent at doing that. The suspense. And everyone's like, and it's like nothing's happened yet, but everybody's like grabbing their chairs, right? So music is very, very powerful. The words make it even more so powerful. You know, the words actually define how music is interpreted. You know, for example, we had Jesus Christ after his 40 days of fasting and being on that mountaintop. You know, the angels had to come and minister to him. They had to use their words to strengthen him again, to, you know, to allow him to receive his vitality again. So all of this is like, wow, they had to come and talk to him. So you imagine someone's talking to you in a negative way. Again, you know, there's an experiment that was done with plants, right? And you can do it with rice or whatever. And there's a situation whereby you speak nice to it, because you speak nice to it, and then it starts to flourish. And then you speak terrible to it, and then it starts to mold and you know, break down and tear down. So music, words are very powerful.
Imagine when you go to a movie and you go to a movie and you have the introduction, and it's creating the mood with the orchestra, and a lot of the movies there's the orchestration of the theme song and you know, and everything, and it's creating. So if you play something like this, major, like I said, now minor, well, you get a sadder tone. And if you do this, it's what's coming up? Yeah. Something around, you know, it's setting that mood is being created. That man, you got you on the edge of your seat. You know what I mean? And the interesting thing about the music is when you're doing like the do re mi fa sol la ti do. When do re mi fa sol la ti, if you stay there, you got everybody going, oh my gosh, oh gosh, I can go back in my seat. You have them on, and you know that seventh tone, that seventh note in music is called the leading tone. Why is the seventh one called leading? The Sabbath day, the seventh day set aside for our God, our leader, the God of Abraham, the God of Isaac, and the God of Jacob. And then back to the root, the new moon. It's like, let's start all over again. Keep our new moons and keep our Sabbaths. You know what I mean? Music is phenomenal. But when you're doing, there's thing in music called flat. And when you think flat, what do you think? Flat, flatten the note. Yes. Sharpen the note. When you're sharpening it, you're kind of raising it up. You know, you kind of, but if you're flattening it,
it's smooth.
So when you go from these different scales, these different keys, and you're adding, for example, on that, again, the major, and then you do this, it's already getting a little bit, and then if you add even more, and then if you do this, even more, then if you do this, it's getting more, you're going deeper down, and it's creating that mood, that environment. Again,
so it makes sense then to jazz it up a little bit, you know?
Correct. And you know, that plays a big part. Rhythm, this all go hand in hand. Is it up
exactly.
B? Is it up B? Yeah. Is it a slow tune? Is it you know, these all play parts.
Let me just read this. It's this is from C. Baba Smith. The devil knows how music affects humans, especially the Jacobites / Israelites. So he uses it against us as much as possible.
Oh, my
absolutely.
Oh my gosh.
This is where the lyrics come into play. If you use those negative lyrics, then obviously you're going to create a negative environment. But if you try to do something, as I said earlier, and glorifying the creation, the trees, the plants, the animals, the children, the sun, the moon, what have you, you know, I think it would enhance the individual a little bit better.
For sure. And you know, the thing is with that, you know, when you do listen to, there's music, like we were been saying, and it was mentioned as in one of the questions earlier about music alone did create this and that. Yeah, you know, you can get stuff when you play stuff like. What's so positive about that? It's like, then you put the lyrics there going off this, and you got, you know, these. I remember back in the day, you know, listening to our albums, again, going into vinyl, if you played the record backward, you could hear, you know, the devil being worshipped. But you got, I said, man, I gotta find a way. How do you play? I would like to research this, because how do you play a record backwards? Maybe, you know, I would like to know how to do it. But the whole point is just to see, they say if you play it backward, but music, the impact, yeah. Oh, most of it is, if not almost all of it, is negative in that sense.
What I'd like to say too to this is that the devil has his role to play. He has a job to do, but so do we as Israelites. You know, and therefore, if you look at the world today, 99.9% of the people are following in a different direction. And we, less than 1%, are staying strong in this direction. We have the record that our foreparents documented the way we should conduct ourselves. We have the record between the covenant with the God of Israel and our forefathers. So we have a lot of positive things. We have the book of Psalms, which has lyrics that are very constructive. So we, despite the challenges that we face in this life, we are confident that what we are doing is correct. We know that nobody from outside can challenge. Yeah, they can challenge, but they can't prove us wrong. So this gives us such a great depth, and we can go to such heights that when we sing, we need to hit those high notes, as long as we're in the right key.
And you know what? It's so true. It's so true. Go ahead, Officer Charlie.
There was a question before, or a point before. I'll read this one, but if we can bring up the other one from Kareen. But Veronica says, oh, okay, let's do Kareen first. This is breathlessly awesome. I will never look at music the same way again. Now I understand deeper why music, sound, melody, words, etc. move me the way it does. Thank you, panel and Elder C.
Oh.
Of creation.
Is that? Sorry. Oh, okay. It just spun. Anyway, excellent point, Elder Castrini, about the seventh note, Sabbath day, 7, and start back to the first note, the new moon.
You know, can I say something about this? And again, you know, stop me if I'm going always too.
No, please go ahead.
Our forefathers, again, through all that oppression, singing the blues. And then by doing the blues, you speed up the blues, you got rock and roll. Chuck Berry, you know, rock and roll. Our forefathers singing the blues. It's the foundation of, you know, where all, you know, current music, all this is comes from. And the thing that if one looks at it, the blues notes, if one looks at the blues notes, which is in again, we always go to do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti, do, the famous do, a deer, a female deer, re, na 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 na, mi, na 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 na, and so on. Na 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 na. Start again. Whatever, you know, I don't want to do the whole thing. But the whole thing is about that is when one is doing the blues, you know, going with the 7th leading tone, that leading tone has been flattened in the blues. The 3rd is flattened in the blues, and the 5th is flattened in the blues to give the blues sound. But those notes, if you flatten the 7th, our forefathers singing, again, going back to the Negro spirituals, singing in the cotton fields, singing, you know, and still smiling and trying to get through all of this, you know, these atrocities, you know. They're singing it from inside, you know, they're not being taught to read, you know, they're being oppressed. They can't, music is something deep inside of them. They're singing with the 7th now, which is the leading tone, has been flattened. Where's the God of Israel? it's been flat. The third has been flattened. The resurrection, there's Jesus. The third is not, it's been flattened. It's been altered. Singing the blues. They're singing to a Jesus, a flat seven. They don't have the God of Israel in the picture. They don't have the Christ. They don't have the resurrection. They're singing the blues. And then out of that comes music. All the music out there is based on the blues, rock and roll, rock, the R&B, and all of this. Isn't that fascinating? Isn't it?
Very fascinating.
I mean, it's just coming out of them because they're crying out and still having an impact on this world.
Well, let's describe some of that impact, Elder Castrelli, because our foreparents sang the Negro spirituals. Sorry, Officer Amin, did you?
Yeah, sorry, moderator, if we can have slide 5, because I think that's what you're going towards. Yes.
Yes. Yeah. And this is some of the impact of the Negro.
Oh no, he's gone. Okay, so
oh, interesting. This is perfect timing.
Importance of the Negro spirituals and some of the, I guess, the importance of what it has done for us today. And one of the things is the evidence of a highly advanced spiritual people governed by a unique covenant. And we see that through the music, because the music was given to us, as Elder Michael mentioned many times. We have the Psalms, and the Psalms is about praising the God of Israel. Moses praised the God of Israel after battle. Miriam sang and danced with her timbrels. So it was all through the scriptures. So this is part of our connection, our covenant to the God of Israel. There you go. See. Okay, Elder Michael, I've got to number 2, so you could go ahead.
Okay. Yes, and the point that number 2 illustrates is to have this musical talent, because it is not something that you could, and that the slaves could go to college and learn. They had to make it up right away, and it's inspiration, and that inspiration is highly spiritual. So the spirit influences your mental faculties, and the mental faculties then influences your physical. In other words, the muscles, for example. Then you can walk, you can run, and how fast you can do these things. So all of this has to do with what they did musically. Then the 4th point addresses the evidence of a unique gift from the God of Israel, because it is not something that they didn't create this on their own. They recognized that gift. Yeah, right. And I had a doctor that told me one time that most Black folks can get by with 25% less oxygen in their lungs, and he didn't know why. And I looked at him and I laughed to myself.
Well, there you go.
I didn't want to disturb him because he was treating me, but I laughed internally, because I recognized that, we have a strong connection going back to the God of Abraham, the God of Isaac, and the God of Jacob, and going back to his creation. So what they didn't teach him in medical school, me at that tender age back in the day, I understood. But that's a whole nother story. The slaves also advocated the truth and for freedom, right? The rhythm, the melody, the harmony, and the dance. These are things that should have influenced the entire American and the New World society, so that people can conduct themselves in a more godly fashion, as opposed to a more, should we say, satanic fashion. Because when you think about enslaving someone, you have to take advantage against their will. Then
I wanted to just make a point of, even with the dance again, because I know we mentioned it earlier, but I'm just remembering when David danced, before the Lord, and upset his wife, but he had to dance. He had to give his all. He had to give everything that he had in order to get the ark from one place to another, and he just didn't care a thing. But his wife was very upset about that.
He was taken away. He was just gone.
And
Yes, that was
not only that, but David also playing at the time. And this is why I said sometimes we have to look out and see the sun and the moon. We have to look out and see the stars. We see the sky. Give the God of Israel praise. Let it not, I mean, all of us can't sing and dance. I got that. But some of us can write poetic pieces as well. Some of you can write, you don't, it doesn't have to be poetic. It could just be a composition of how you felt that day when you looked out and you saw the creation of the God of Abraham, the God of Isaac, and the God of Jacob. Keep a notebook, and because you're going to do this periodically from day to day, when you're feeling good, you write down a few paragraphs and let that be your driving force.
Absolutely.
Because yeah, you're going to have those days when you're not going to feel that good, and then you can go back and read and say, wow, thank you, God of Israel, for this enlightenment. And maybe one day, who knows, you might be rapping. You never know. This is how it is, right? Then there's evidence of this improvisation. This is what I like. I like jazz. Yeah, because you have a jazz orchestra. Everybody is apparently playing on their own. At least that's the way it looks. But in harmony, because they're in the same key, and in that individual music that allegedly is singular, is actually comprehensive. It creates the song for the entire group, even though it looks, and none of this, they didn't go to school to learn none of these things. It's just spiritual
that's the point. That they didn't go to school. There's I played with so many musicians. We're talking structure and music. They haven't studied a note of music, but man, can they play? Nobody can say they can't play. No, they're phenomenal musicians. They can't.
Right.
You tell them, can you play me an E, or something? It's like, but man, no, it's
they don't even, they probably didn't know what an E was.
Yeah, exactly.
You know what it is? When you speak of this, I see the spirit harmonizing.
Yes.
The spirit is harmonizing. It's like when you're playing music, especially when you're in an orchestra or a band or worship, everybody is harmonizing. That they have with them, and that's what really makes, what touches you the most, because it's that spiritual connection when it comes to music.
That's it. And that goes back to Jacob's ladder that Elder Michael was touching on earlier, which goes back to the overtones, those tones that exist within a tone that harmonize, that brings it together, that is not physical at all. It's not physical at all. Just it's like that.
Exactly. And one of the best examples that I have witnessed of improvisation, the spiritual touch of it. This was a time when I had no knowledge of Israel or our Israelite ancestors or culture, but I would listen to the singers scatting, and they would go off. They completed the song, or in the process of doing so, they start to make these. They use their vocals as an instrument, and they, I can't even do it because I would be doing.
They use their vocals and instrument, and it originally came from the vocal to the instrument, and it's going originally. That's where it started.
But I want to tell a story about one of my sons, and I'm not going to say his name, and I hope he doesn't come and says, "Mom, why did you say that?" Anyways. So he says that sometimes he records his the lectures at school, and he says there's this one particular teacher that is incredibly boring, so boring you'll just die. And so what he did, he took the soundtrack from the movie called Inception, so he plays it in a background and he listens to his teacher, and he says he sounds incredible when he's got that, when he's got the music in the background. He's like, "Mom, that lecture went from me wanting to die to me just like, wow, this guy is awesome," because of that music in the background.
What an impact. What an impact.
That is very creative indeed.
Yeah,
Very creative.
Yeah.
It really is.
But the thing about the scatting that I liked
Yeah,
is this is not rehearsed. It's improvisation. And the entire orchestra, the entire band, the rest of the singers, they all participate. After the singer starts, the others fall in line. It's absolutely beautiful. And I never
right.
hear anybody else doing it until the descendants of the slaves were the first to do this. Fascinating. And of course, we can go on forever and talk about all the other types of music that we have created: R&B, soul, hip hop, and so on and so forth, rap. All of these are part and parcel of that entire process. And it all started with that call and response format, where I remember the time when the pastors, and this even in Christianity, they would sing the scriptures. They and the crowd would respond. I'd watch this on television. I thought, oh, that's very creative. He would start to explain, and then he break into a song, continuing the rest of the scriptures, and everybody starts to sing, and it was beautiful back then. Of
Yeah,
course, they didn't have the right scriptures, they didn't
for
explain it
sure.
right,
For
but the
sure.
harmony was good. I like that back in the day. And of course, the significant source of our Israelite history and culture is found in the Negro spirituals. These are points that need to be recognized and understood. And if I can just go in briefly to, because we don't have a lot of time left, to the results of the Negro spirituals. In the year 1759, William Wilberforce was born. Now, I know most people, when they look at results, they might think of, certain things that are trivial, but his birth created a whole new dynamic in British Parliament. And I'm not going to get into it, but just keep that in mind and investigate it. And you will see, ladies and gentlemen, what William Wilberforce has done for us. And he did not look like me. He looked more like Officer Kistrilli.
Oh
But
yeah.
the point is the harmony of the different instruments, if we will. If we are the instruments of the God of Israel, we need to play in the same key. We need to create the same melody and the same
That,
harmony.
that's
That's the beauty of the
but
whole
and
process.
I believe he was also born in August month, wasn't he?
There you go. I have all the details, but it's
August month of all months,
yeah.
right?
I'll give you another one in that in 1780, the Underground Railroad was established. And then later on in 1792, we had the abolitionist Thaddeus Stevens. He was born. And in 1782, Thaddeus, again, research Thaddeus Stevens and see that he was one of the few that introduced the bill for reparations for slavery. It's yet to pass the US Congress or the Senate, but he introduced it back in the day because he was an important politician. And who can forget John Brown? He was born in 1800. You see, now people might think that these things have no connection. I think they have a big connection.
Huge.
Why? Because of the role that these individuals played.
Played. Yeah.
And all of these are attached to the Negro spirituals in one way or another. And
Yes,
I invite, yeah, go ahead.
no, no. It's interesting what you're saying there, Elder Michael. That to continue, but the every all music, all these styles and everything. Jacob Jacob played such a major part in all of that. You
Yes.
look at all of it as you're saying R&B, soul, and all these different styles.
Mhm.
Even when one looks at classical music, you would think classical music. You would think it's so
Mhm.
European, very white. You know what I mean? But
Yeah.
but there was no greater. I mean, it's a toss up between a couple, but up there is a guy named Beethoven, and who was this
Yes.
guy? He was
Yes.
referred to as the Black Spaniard. Who was this guy? Born in Bonn, Germany. Who's this guy? Dun 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 dun. But who's this guy that had these black features and he was dark and he had kinky hair? And who is this guy that played such a major role in classical music even? And who's this guy, Jimi Hendrix? Who's this guy? Rock guitar. And who's this playing a guitar? He just took a guitar and flipped it to the other side. He didn't even change the strings. And he's playing this guitar that even till this day they're going, who is this
But
guy?
But don't forget Officer Charmaine's favorite singer, Elvis
Who?
Presley, right? We all saw the movie.
Sorry,
And,
OC. Sorry.
yeah. Where did he
How
learn?
do we leave him out?
Where did he learn his skills? Right? Right. He sat in the back of the black shrines where a lot of the Negro spirituals were sung, because they were instrumental, the Negro spirituals, in inspiring the gospel music. Okay. And he learned.
You learn from who?
To enhance their music or to develop their musical skills. So there is so much here. That music is used throughout the movies, like you said earlier, the internet, every which way. But do we ever get credit for that? No.
No. But hey, that's part of that. And it's all written. That's the way it's going to be, because of our disobedience.
Yes.
Yeah.
But under that disobedience, what still influence Jacob played?
That's right.
Yes.
Big time.
Yeah.
Big time.
There was one thing that really bothered me. There's an artist, 50 Cent. I read his book. I think it's called the 50th Law or something. And I found him to be incredibly smart, such a very intelligent, smart man. But I was so infuriated with the concept of him continuing to play his kind or create his kind of music, because it allows him, well, it's profitable, and it also, the children gravitate towards it. It's popular. And I was thinking to myself, that is so unfortunate, because with all his talents, he could be doing so much more. And you have these young people, they're reacting in a negative way because of the music that he's bringing out. I'm thinking, geez, that's so unfortunate, because as you said, music is very inspirational and at the same time influential, right? So yeah, he could do so much more good, but he uses it because he knows it works, which is really unfortunate.
They have to be very, very, very careful, because it's has high spiritual connection. And when I think of music, today, because he was a good musician, he was a good singer, and he did a lot to establish music, and after he built the foundation for the Israelite Nation Worldwide Ministries. And this is why we are able to come together today to connect, because had it not been for his teaching, I would not be able to connect the Negro spirituals with our history and culture. I would not understand what you're just talking about, Officer Kistrilli, about the creation by the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, because the Christians, all they talk about is Jesus. And thank God I didn't go there, because thank God for Elder Shadrach, because had it not been for his teaching,
absolutely, without Elder Shadrach, connecting us with our God, I wouldn't be able to connect these points when it comes from all throughout. Even just there I am, a young Italian boy playing the accordion, and then going to another instrument, and just playing music, learning then down the road be able to connect, and it's very plain and simple, but with us it is very plain and simple. We're truly blessed with the understanding, thanks to Elder Shadrach, that these things, it all comes together. Doing music from way back then, now there's a real meaning to it, to serve and praise our God.
Yes.
Thank you. I mean, this was such an amazing session. Thank you, everyone, for joining, for participating. I just want to put out to our audience, if there is a specific subject that you would like us to cover, please add it to the chat or to the comments. And please do not forget to share this video. I think it's going to be one of my favorites. Thank you so much, Elder Kistrilli, for joining us today. And hopefully we'll have you back for a part 2. We can talk about some of the famous musicians, maybe. I don't know. Let's see. But no, it was wonderful. And as you said, thank you to our elder, because it was his ability to create music that was the foundation for our nation.
That's right.
Thank you to our Elder Shadrach and to everyone that joined us today. Thank you so much. And to our moderator. And not forgetting our God, the God of Abraham, the God of Isaac, and the God of Jacob. Have a wonderful day.
Peace.
Peace.